What's up, everybody? It's GamerProf coming at you with yet another video. This one is going to be a sort of final announcement. I have purchased my components for the Ryzen build. I'm about to go through the list and show you sort of what my decisions are. Some of these things have remained constant through the build process, while others have changed based on your feedback and based on some reading and updated information that I've received. So let's just get into it. The first thing that I decided to go with is the Ryzen 1700. Many of you commented on this particular choice, and I heard some great feedback about this chip. It is a 3 gigahertz clock rate with a 3.7 gigahertz boost. It's 65 watts TDP and comes with that AMD Raspberry cooler, which is an RGB cooler. That does have a connection that'll tap into the Asus RSync on the motherboard that I've decided to go with. So, spoiler alert, I decided to go with an Asus board. I think Asus makes great products. The board in my current build is an Asus. It stays on constantly 24/7 and has been absolutely fabulous. So I decided to go with the Crosshair 6 Hero motherboard from Asus. Fully featured, Asus's top of the line X370 board. Here's some of the features. It's got the AMD X370 chipset, like I said. M.2 socket 3 with an M key for some of that SSD support that we're looking for. Asus's Supreme FX 8-channel audio. Also has access to a CMOS clear and a BIOS flash button that'll be accessible when the case is closed. Gigabit LAN, of course. It's got a USB 3.1 Type A, a USB 3.1 Type C port on the back, as well as 8 USB 3.0 and 4 USB 2.0 ports. There's also connectors on the motherboard for an additional front panel connector for USB 3.1, an additional 3.0 header for support for up to 2 USB 3.0 ports, and one of those headers for USB 2.0 as well. That'll support an additional 2 USB 2.0 ports. Another thing I love about Asus boards is the fact that they come with the Q connector, which essentially makes hooking up the power button and the LEDs on the front and all of that very, very easy, because you basically connect them all. If you've not seen one of these, it's a little block that you connect all of those connections to. You can do that outside of the case where there's light and you can reach stuff, and then you essentially just plug that block into the header on the motherboard. It saves a ton of hassle. Great idea by Asus, and actually my current board has that too, so they've been doing that for a while now. Asus have also included some interesting 3D printing support. A couple of additional brackets that you can print that are optional. Of course, you have to have access to a 3D printer to do that, but there's one bracket for an M.2 fan to cool that SSD, and then there's also a 24-pin power cable cover, which you can see in this photo, which I think potentially I might have a friend print those up for me, do a little bit of custom painting on them, and then throw them in there. Now, of course, I won't need the M.2 bracket unless I upgrade to an M.2 SSD, but I'd like to know that that option is available. And finally, this board has full RGB support. There are a couple of extra RGB headers, but in addition to that, there's some RGB lighting on the Crosshair logo on the left side of the board, and then the ROG logo on the right side of the board also is RGB as well. The case I've decided to go with is the Fractal Design Define S windowed. I know the picture is not of the windowed one, but I'd already grabbed this picture and started editing it before I realized that. So the one that I'll be actually getting is the windowed version, though. This is kind of the mock-up for sort of the final design, at least where it stands right now. Nothing's painted yet, however, so obviously I'm still open to feedback on that. I've decided to go with something simple. I think I'm going to keep the case black. I originally talked about painting it white, but I think I'm just going to keep it black. And I just decided to go with this little striped pattern. I think that looks classy, but gives it some customization so it doesn't just look like a stock case. So here's some features of the Define S that sort of helped me make my choice. The top one is the main feature that I really like about this case. It does have a reservoir and pump mounting solution. A lot of cases don't have that. You end up having to drill holes or find some place to stuff the res and the pump. But this actually kind of takes that into consideration and gives you some room and some already pre-drilled holes and things like that to help you out with that. Also really like the fact that the hard drive and solid state drive mounts are on the back of the motherboard tray. Frees up some room in the front of the case. Looks very, very slick when it's all said and done. Gives you quick access to change those things out if you need to, and that's one of the reasons why I chose this case actually. The next two kind of go together. There are front and bottom filters, which I really like. You can filter all that intake air, keep a lot of dust out of the case, which is great. And then it also has large feet for elevation off of the floor. That increases air circulation, obviously, and if I mount the power supply fan side down, which I'm thinking about doing, it'll give that air somewhere to come from. It's got space in the front of the case for 360, 280, 240, 140, or 120 millimeter radiators. So again, being that I plan to do some kind of a custom water loop in the future, that's very important to me to have those options for radiators. There's also USB 3.0 ports on the front. I'm really glad they decided to put 3.0 ports on there. There's plenty of support on the motherboard for those ports, and I plan to utilize that header to hook up those 3.0 ports on the front. For the power supply, I decided to go with the EVGA Supernova G1. As you can see by the picture, it is a fully modular power supply, which is great for cable management. And other than that, there's really not a lot to say here. EVGA makes solid stuff, and I think 750 watts is plenty of power for this build. I decided to go with the G.Skill Trident Z RGB 16 gig, which is two 8 gig sticks of DDR4 3200 memory. The RGB thing was just, a little bit of fun. It wasn't much more expensive than regular DDR4 RAM, and I thought, this is kind of an RGB build now, especially with that ROG motherboard I decided to go with, and why not? Some parts that I plan to sort of salvage and use for my current build. I've got a couple of solid state drives around that I'm kind of trying to decide which one I plan on using. I've got an OCZ Vertex 3, that's in my current build right now, and I've also got a Samsung 850 EVO that's in another build, which is a laptop actually, that I may end up salvaging and using in this build and throwing that Vertex 3 in the laptop. For storage drive, I've got 2 terabyte FireCuda hard drive from Seagate. That's a hybrid drive. It's got a solid state cache, pretty neat. Really helps out with load times on frequently used games and things like that. So check those out if you haven't. And finally, the Asus GTX 1050 Ti graphics card. The great thing about this is that there's room for growth. That 1700 chip is certainly not AMD's top of the line Ryzen chip. There are 2 above it. So in the future, if things start bottlenecking at the CPU, I've got room to go up there. I've got 2 more DDR4 slots for memory with a max of like 64 gigs, so I've got plenty of upgradability built in there. There's plenty of room in that case for water cooling, for more storage drives, M.2 storage drive, so there's plenty of room for upgradability there between the case and the motherboard. There's room as far as the power supply goes to upgrade the graphics card, or potentially even run an SLI configuration if that becomes more viable option in the future. So that's going to do it for the video today, guys. I know it ran a little bit longer than I wanted it to, but I had a lot of information to bring to you today. If you've enjoyed this video and you're looking forward to more content, please hit the like button, the subscribe button down below, and leave some comments. If you like the build, if you don't like the build, let me know what you think about it. Also, consider supporting the channel. I've set up a little GoFundMe page, which I'll flip back up on the screen now so you can see, but it's also going to be in the description below. And if you would find it in your heart to throw me a few bucks to help me out with this build, that'd be great. If not, that's okay too. The build's still coming. I still plan on filming the whole thing and showing you guys exactly what it looks like when it's finished. Once again, thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Have a great day.